The Stayton at Museum Way is proud to present the Red Carpet Speaker Series, featuring some of America's most thought-provoking presenters. Each month, you'll hear from newsmakers, innovators, and celebrities as they share insider information, news, and stories. Our speaker series is an excellent way to discover the red carpet treatment at the Stayton. Retirement, Fort Worth style, living your style. Please visit thestayton.com/redcarpet or call 817-349-6117 for more information. Now, we invite you to enjoy highlights from the Stayton's March Red Carpet Speaker Series event featuring Robert M. Edsel, author of The Monuments Men, Allied Heroes, Nazi Thieves, and the Greatest Treasure Hunt in History.
Today, Edsel is recognized for continuing the mission of the Monuments Men and bringing their brave actions and heroic sacrifices to the forefront of our culture. Robert Edsel calls on us today to boldly explore the question, is art worth life? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Robert Edsel.
This story, as you heard, is one that took me by surprise when I'd first moved to Florence in 1996. And I was walking across this bridge, the Ponte Vecchio, and wondered how these things survived. And I was really amazed that so many people didn't know the answer. It just underscored for me what an opportunity we have to not only share these great men and women's stories about the preservation of so many works of art, but also hopefully reestablish that same sense of respect for the cultural property of others that President Roosevelt and General Eisenhower so ingeniously established. In September 1939, with the Nazi invasion of Poland, museums throughout Europe began evacuations of their works to get them outside the city. You see these trucks departing the Louvre Museum with some of the 400,000 objects that are packed up and moved in a matter of 10 days. Museums throughout Europe closed for a matter of 5 years. The great Grand Gallery there with nothing but empty picture frames sitting on the floor. Paintings such as the Mona Lisa were moved around France on 5 separate occasions before being returned to the city in June 1945. The very fragile sculpture of Wings of Samothrace was placed on skids and lowered down the grand stairway of the Louvre. This and so many other works of art, getting them out of the cities out of fear of Allied bombing and the consequent fires that might start. The same concerns occupied the art leaders in Italy. The David, of course, due to its size and weight, couldn't be moved outside the Accademia, so local art officials very ingeniously designed these brick silos that entombed the David and the adjacent sculpture by Michelangelo known as the Slaves, again with the great concern being Allied bombing perhaps damaging or causing the roof to collapse of the Accademia and destroying these great works of art. In Milan, the superintendents concerned about Leonardo's masterpiece Last Supper in the refectory of the Santa Maria della Grazia Church placed sandbags and then scaffolding and poles up against the wall, and fortuitously so, because an Allied bomb, a British bomb, landed in the courtyard in the center of the Cloister of the Dead, right about here, which is 80 feet from the wall, 88 feet or so. It obliterated the courtyard here. You see all the beams that held up the stucco archways. The east wall was blown out. The roof collapsed. You see the A-frame beams along there, leaving this painting behind the scaffolding there. And you see this deep, deep fissure in the wall that ultimately is shored up by beams. This is a better photograph of it, and you can see how precarious it is with the sandbags protruding out the side and the beams here supporting the wall. So it's truly a miracle that this work of art survived. About the time of the near disaster in Milan at the Last Supper, there's a small newspaper clipping that shows up in the New York Times announcing the formation of a committee with a very, very long name that became known as the Roberts Commission. And this is a committee that was appointed by President Roosevelt earlier in the year in 1943, announced within a few days of the near destruction of the Last Supper, but had been in the works for some time. And this commission, the Roberts Commission, created a subcommittee known as the Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives Section, or MFA&A. And it was their job to select men and women that could go in and become a new kind of soldier when charged with saving rather than destroying, in essence, cultural preservation officers. This had never been done before on this kind of scale, the effort to fight a war on the one hand and mitigate damage to cultural treasures at the same time. The very first monuments officer was a man named Mason Hammond, who was a classics professor at Harvard, who was flown into theater, into Sicily, even after the invasion of Sicily had commenced, because President Roosevelt had an acute understanding of the need to have somebody over there, but he also realized they were behind the 8 ball in getting these officers selected. Hammond was a classics professor at Harvard, and like many of most of the monuments men, he was average age about 40 years old. All these men and women who were museum directors, curators, architects, artists themselves, many were professors at college, all had established careers. Most of them had families, many had kids, and they had every reason in the world to not walking away from having life made to volunteer, to put on a military uniform and get in harm's way. But they felt they had an important contribution to make, and they wanted to serve their country and serve civilization by preserving these works of art. It's a fascinating story, and there's so many sub-stories, so many great vignettes. I try and tell the ones I judge the best and relevant to the story and Monuments Men in the writing of it. Only a fraction of them, as you can imagine, could even begin to make it into the film. And equally compelling stories in Saving Italy, these drawings of Dean Keller to his boy. Boy, what a Father's Day gift that thing is, and it's really something. And the 2 officers in Italy, Dean Keller and Fred Hart, just played, well, you'll see if you read that book how beloved they were by Italians and the honors that were accorded them that those of you that have traveled to Italy can imagine. Americans being recognized by Italians for something during World War II, it's pretty exceptional, and both of them were in the most honorable of ways. So, thank you for being here. I'm deeply honored you all asked me to stay all day, and I'm glad I could do it, and I hope someday maybe I can come back and tell you about whatever the next book's going to be about, maybe involving women.
We hope you enjoyed these highlights from the Stayton's Red Carpet Speaker Series. Please visit thestayton.com/red carpet or call 817-349-6117 for details on future installments of the Red Carpet Speaker Series, or to learn more about getting red carpet treatment at the Stayton at Museum Way. Retirement Fort Worth style. Living your style.